Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, we will commence with a short recitation from the Quran, as we usually do, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us blessings. And it is one of the best ways of commencing an Islamic event. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تقدموا بين يدي الله ورسوله واتقوا الله إن الله سميع عليم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا ترفعوا أصواتكم فوق صوت النبي ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم ولا تجهروا له بالقول كجهر بعضكم لبعض أن تحبط أعمالكم وأنتم لا تشعرون. إن الذين يغضون أصواتهم عند رسول الله أولئك الذين امتحن الله قلوبهم للتقوى لهم مغفرة وأجر عظيم. إن الذين ينادونك من وراء الحجرات أكثرهم لا يعقلون. ولو أنهم صبروا حتى تخرج إليهم لكان خيرا لهم والله عليم حكيم. ولو أنهم صبروا حتى تخرج إليهم لكان خيرا لهم والله غفور رحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. واعلموا أن فيكم رسول الله لو يطيعكم في كثير من الأمر لعنتم ولكن الله حبب إليكم الإيمان وزينه في قلوبكم وكره إليكم الكفر والفسوق والعصيان أولئك هم الراشدون فضلا من الله ونعمه والله عليم حكيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وحده وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من علم لا ينفع ومن عين لا تدمع ومن قلب لا يخشع ومن دعاء لا يسمع. We commence by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sending blessings and salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless him, his entire household, all his companions, And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him goodness. And at the same time, we ask him to bless every single one of us and to grant us all every form of goodness and to protect us and our offspring from the difficulties of this particular age and from the negative environment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to open our doors. Ameen. O Allah, we seek protection from knowledge that will not be beneficial, and we ask you to benefit us from the knowledge that you have granted us. And we seek protection from eyes that will not cry for your sake, from a stomach that will never be filled, from knowledge that will not be made use of, and from a prayer that is made to you that is not answered. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us all once again. Beloved brothers and sisters, indeed, it brings a smile upon the face to be again in this particular beautiful city of Colombo. And this evening, the topic I was given to speak about is a topic of relevance and utmost importance. The media and the role of the media in shaping public opinion. I don't like the term public opinion, but what can we do? The reality is, if you were to ask a journalist, he would tell you that we control the world. And I think to a certain extent, he would not be lying. Journalism is by far the most powerful field that you have in terms of mind control and the control of what people do and this movement of the people towards a direction that is chosen. And this is very important. I think we as Muslims have underestimated the power of the media, and perhaps we are 50, if not more, years behind in terms of use of the media. The tool being used today is not a nuclear weapon, nor is it an atomic bomb, nor is it a knife or anything else. It is in fact the media. What is more dangerous today than one person losing his or her life is when a whole generation's brains have been wiped out completely, to the degree that they feel what is right is wrong and what is wrong is right, and they are convinced about it because over time the media has made it seem that. Subhanallah. Where people will fight polygamy, but they will look at gay marriages as a human right. Allahu Akbar. Where people will fight that which is absolutely acceptable, and they will acknowledge that which is unacceptable as being acceptable. And this is a sign of the hour that was predicted by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The right will be considered wrong, and the wrong will be considered right. The innocent guilty and the guilty innocent. Many times the media has been guilty of riling up or inciting masses to engage in some form of misdeed or misbehavior. And that is just because of the power of the tool. And sometimes, and I have spoken to some journalists, they enjoy doing that. Allahu Akbar. They enjoy it. And this is why the media generally is controlled by particular groups of people who are very happy that the Muslims do not take part in it. They are excited about that. In fact, it makes their job very easy. And this is why we need to be careful. Today, if you look at the media houses, or should I say the news banks that you have across the globe, not more than 1 or 2 would belong to the Muslims. And even that would be a 10th grade newsroom or news house. Besides perhaps 1 or 2. The rest of it controlled by people who want to govern what exactly gets to your ears and mine, and what exactly you would see and I would. I recall in a certain country, a very, very so-called reputable news house, if I can word it that way, wanted to create a story of poverty. And in order to do that, you know, everyone says seeing is believing. So you need to show them a picture. To see is to believe. That's what we were taught. Moments ago I tweeted saying seeing is no longer believing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us protection. Because it can be edited or produced or stage managed. Just like what I'm about to tell you now. So this man, who was a professional journalist, decided to take a wad of pounds. You see, British sterling, pounds. I think I'm giving away where he was from. So having taken a wad of pounds in full view of the public and thrown it into a bin that was in the center of the city. So people rushed towards the bin, those in suits with bags, and those on the streets, the poor and the rich, because a wad of pounds, even if a man is quite wealthy and he's nearby, he might think, let me pick this up. Perhaps, let's hope he might be feeling a little bit charitable to say, if I pick it up, I might want to give it to someone. Let's hope that, inshallah. You know, they say good news, good intention. May Allah grant us good intention all the time. So, as the people had come forth and they began to dig the bin for a wad of notes that was thrown into it, the journalist was busy videoing the whole thing, saying there is so much famine that those in suits and ties are also digging the bins. And then we want to say seeing is believing. So the brains of a lot of people who witnessed that are completely washed. They will debate and argue with you till they go green that what we have seen is correct. There is famine, and we saw with our own eyes that people are digging the bins. And only if they had known what exactly transpired, they would realize they have been totally brainwashed. And I usually tell people that don't movies look so real? A movie, if a person was to sit and watch a movie, not to say I'm encouraging anyone to do that, but those of you who have seen a clip or two or a movie or two, and don't look at me like you haven't, Allahu Akbar. Everyone's giving me a dirty look like I'm the only guy here, Allahu Akbar. It looks so real that people begin to cry when the blood is not actually blood, it's a little bit of ketchup, Allahu Akbar. And people begin to cry when someone who's not dead in real life dies behind a screen and they were paid 20,000 for that. And the Muslimin are busy with tears rolling down their eyes. So if that looks so real that it can actually change the condition of our hearts, then do you really think that the enemy would not use such a tool to brainwash us where it is needed? And for this reason today, I would like to show you how the media is being used today to portray what not only the journalists, but the rich and wealthy, or those who have the clout, or those who are behind the scenes would like to portray, in a way that we are mere figures, like goats and sheep following the rest of the flock. And this is why I always say, if you study the enemies of Islam, they have looked and studied very carefully the reactions of an action more than the action itself. So what they will do is, they will think of how best to portray Muslims as hooligans. What is the best way? To incite them through something. So they will create a cartoon or a movie that is blasphemous or that touches the nerve amongst the Muslims, not in order to blaspheme the Muslims. That was not the intention. The intention is something bigger than that. The intention is to waylay the weak Muslims and to eradicate the thought within those who wanted to turn to Islam by portraying an image. By portraying an image to the world that the Muslims are the biggest hooligans. So what happens is, they then create a cartoon and sit back, knowing that they studied very carefully the reaction of that action of theirs. And by studying the reaction of that action, they sat back and we did the rest, exactly as they controlled us to do. This is why when the ulama say, brothers and sisters, do not react in a typical way. If the cartoons came out and we did not become hooligans as a result, those who initiated the cartoons would be so angry and so upset that what they wanted to prove, they were unable to prove, because we were not caught in the clutch or in their own clutch. We understood the move. The problem is, they trained us how to react so many times by the movies that we've watched already, by the news that we've seen, by the thousands of demonstrations that we witness across the globe for anything and everything. And the worst demonstrations ever are those where people remove their clothes in order to express their support for the polar bears in the North Pole. Allahu Akbar. They say you should not be using that particular skin. So we are going to bare everything so that you can realize and understand that this is a bad thing. Allahu Akbar. What they have done is even worse. So this is why when we watch the people and when we've been educated by the same system to react in a specific way, someone gives you a smack, you get up and give them another smack. That's how we were taught, and we are trained, and we receive a PhD in that. And thereafter, all they have to do is release that match and we do the rest, because we've been trained so much how to react that now they sit back and they want to test us. The final exam is to see, I trained you 1,000 times, now the main one is coming, how do you react? And guess what? We react exactly as they want us to react, just like goats following the rest of the flock. Have you ever watched sheep or goats? When one goes in, the rest of them follow. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us like animals. This is why in Islam, if someone gives you a slap on your face, we are not taught to give them the other cheek. We are taught to think. What is the best reaction to this? In a way that we can resolve the matter and perhaps serve a lesson to the one who has done this. And sometimes if we are totally unable, we might have to resort to something minor. Sometimes we might have to raise our hands and just pray to the Almighty. And sometimes we will be able to give a slap back depending on the might and power we have. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our doors. So it's very important for us to know how the media operates. And at the same time, we need to realize that the tools used are so many. From the billboards that we see in the city of Colombo, and as I was coming through, every restaurant wants a board or an advert to prove that its food is the best. Every perfume wants to advertise in a way that it smells the best. And every advert is put up in a way that whatever they are advertising is better than the others. It is all about catching your eye. So the media, this entire game, is all about mind control, drawing attention, informing people and getting them where you want them. That's what it is. Because you and I know that education is very important. And people who create the syllabus are actually in control. Have you ever thought of that? A syllabus is made. And today I was speaking to someone and I asked them a question. What came first, doctors or universities? They told me doctors. I said, so then why are the universities there? Because someone wanted to create a syllabus and to teach the doctors in a specific way, perhaps a lot of good, with all due respect to doctors and any other field. But who knows, within the syllabus, there may be elements of contamination of the brain and the mind in a way that you will never know. And we become people who may lose faith sometimes, depending on where you've studied, what syllabus you have. Even if you're holding a PhD, sometimes your common sense might have been stripped as a result. And sometimes your religion can go as a result. So we need to be careful. We take what is acceptable and we need to know enough about our religion that we can hold back that which is not acceptable. This is if we know the game. The problem is we don't. So today, life is all about the latest mobile phone. Every time I've come to Colombo, I've spoken about that. Subhanallah. And life is about the latest motor vehicle and the latest scent and the clothing. How does it work? They need to create a few movies. They need to, perhaps with Bollywood or Hollywood or Nollywood or Zollywood, whatever else is there today, they need to ensure that those big heroes and actors who just look good and perhaps can speak well and act well, They need to be dressed in a specific way. The world wants it. Have you noticed that you have brands of perfume and clothing and handbags and soaps and cosmetics with the names of the same heroes and heroines of the movies? Where did they gain the expertise in perfumes and scents and soaps when they were only people who acted on a television? It is because our minds and our brains have lifted them so high up by merely watching them on a daily basis. And don't tell me you don't have a TV at your home. Allah protect us. Perhaps we might have a handful of people who don't, like myself, alhamdulillah. But I'm sure the bulk of us, even on our mobile phones, we're busy on YouTube and on this and on that. Let's hope whatever we are using is within the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you take a look at statistics, in 1986, the world had 4.6 billion inhabitants. Not a single mobile phone. Did you know that? In 1986, the world had 4.6 billion inhabitants. Not a single mobile phone. In 2012, the world has 7.5 billion people and 6 billion mobile subscribers. How do you like that? 6 billion mobile subscribers might be duplicated. Do you know that people, or there are more subscribers to mobile networks than those who have electricity at home? Did you know that? This is why in my country, if you go to the rural areas, you will find people charging their mobile phones with car batteries and with solar panels, because the mobile phone is something that needs to get to everyone. The system of bulk SMS is still operational within some circles, but nowadays you have a tweet that can reach 1 million people. You have a message on Facebook that reaches 20 million people, without a joke. What I'm saying is very serious. If you want people to know something, you tweet. And I wonder why they call it Twitter. Allahu Akbar. Allah protect us from becoming twits in the process. My brothers and sisters, it is a serious matter. We are being bombarded by everything but Islam. We are being bombarded by pornography to the degree that I read statistics that I have mentioned in previous lectures, that the Muslim nations are the highest in terms of viewership of pornography. Have you known that? Because it is bombarded, it is targeted at the Muslims. We are perhaps one of the few religions that take our religion seriously, and we have teachings that are very, very grand, very high, very clean and lofty. If you were to follow them correctly, you would automatically be a leader in your own right. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us, and may He make us understand and realize. So, with so many mobile phones, and with so much, how much Islam do we have? I was saying earlier today that for Jumu'ah Salah, the bulk of us arrive late. We have 5 minutes of the 20-minute talk, which now we misunderstood because the last 5 minutes were connected to the first 15 minutes, and thereafter we leave with a misunderstanding, and the first thing that happens is we go onto the net, if we are still from amongst those who want to find out, and then we don't realize that the genuine sites are very few, and what we get is actually brainwashing and the snatching away of our deen. There are so many websites which are run by non-Muslims in the name of Islam, and we don't even know, and sometimes we may never know. It's very difficult. They want to lure us into questioning the marriages of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They want to lure us into questioning women's rights. Yet, the women who have abandoned the Islamic teachings are the ones who are the most depressed in this world. The suicide rates are the highest in the United States of America, and the entry into Islam is highest in the category between 30 and 45 years of age within Western females who are highly educated. Have you known that? Why would they be leaving the comfort of all the freedoms that they have been offered and made to believe? Because they've lived that, they've tried it, they've experienced it, they've realized that we're getting nowhere, and the only way is for us to go back to the role we were created for, and that is the niche that Islam has placed them upon. And Islam does not oppress a woman at all. In fact, if anything, it grants a woman utmost dignity and respect. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness. Today, if we take a look at the print media, the newspapers, for example, they carry stories. The story is invented or created or sometimes edited or published by, the word we can obviously select, a journalist. And at times, journalism will confirm that a journalist does not have the right to write a story because he needs to purchase it from a media house, such as perhaps AFP or CNN or perhaps BBC and so on. And this is why in our own papers in the third world and even in countries of the first world, you will find that after a piece of news, at the bottom, they will have where they got it from. And a lot of the times, it is just from a media house bought, and whoever decided to write it in whatever way they wanted to write it, giving preference to whichever side of the story they wanted to give preference, they did it, we bought it, we published it, and we all bought the paper, we read it and accepted it, and we begin to hate our fellow Muslim brothers based on what one enemy of Islam has written, and it was purchased and printed, we bought it and we read it. Where is the verse of the Quran that says, verify the news that comes to you very well before you believe it, lest you harm people in a way that you will regret later on. Allahu Akbar. So today the innocent are guilty because the journalist himself is not only a judge or a lawyer, but he is the one who passed the sentence, and at the same time he made the world believe who was guilty and who was not, and the poor fellow has not yet had his court case. Allahu Akbar. This is what journalism is. And mashallah, we do have journalists who stand up, ethics, they know what is right and wrong, and they will really promote what is correct. And today we'd like to pay tribute to those and to tell them we need more of you on the globe. Those who can say the truth. But sometimes when you have uttered the truth, nobody buys your story. You don't have the platform to publish it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness. From a very young age, we have the magazines for the children. We have magazines on the bookshelves, in our stores, portraying motor vehicles, telling you how to live, you and your family. I'm sure we've seen those names. And telling you, for example, what type of a home you should be having. So now you're fighting at home because your eyes are not set on Jannah, but set on a little, house here somewhere around, which is supposed to be decorated in a specific way with the voice-controlled kitchen. The voice-controlled kitchen, I'm sure we're all aware of it, and I've spoken about it in the past, where the kettles that are out today no longer, press a button or a remote control. You talk to it, you speak to it. Water, the water starts, it starts to pour into the kettle, hot, 90 degrees. Suddenly it comes, mashallah. So look at how everybody's looking at me, subhanallah. If you want the kettle, inshallah, we can strike a deal now when we exit, inshallah. My brothers and sisters, it is a reality. The way this has been advertised, the way it is portrayed. So we would like to live our lives according to the lives of those whose lives are a mess. The only thing good about them, according to them themselves, is the fact that they can act. So it's a big act. So if you look at a lot of the magazines, when they want to advertise a watch, and I won't say names of people, although I know quite a few of the names, they will have one of the actresses who has the watch. People look at her and they want the watch. Allahu Akbar. Believe me, she won't even come in your dreams if you buy that watch. You thought of it? Allahu Akbar. My brothers and sisters, if you look at them and their lives and some of the magazines we have and some of the reality shows, when they say reality show, it's a topic on its own. Inshallah, I'll spend a few minutes on that in a few moments. So when we read and we see, we will want to wear like them, or our women and even the men would like to wear clothes according to what they have worn. And we want the scent according to what they have done. And we cut our hair according to that. And we would like to walk according to that. Put our jeans according to where they have put them. Allahu Akbar. That is exactly monkey see, monkey do. Allahu Akbar. It is exactly what we're talking about. You see things and you do. Like a goat and a sheep. In fact, those are more honored and honorable. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness. It's important for us to know we are being bombarded. You do not need to have a designer name just because it is the name of a person who perhaps might be somewhere on the globe a little bit popular. No. Some of the scents are far cheaper and they smell better. Yes. So is it the smell you want or is it the name you want? If it is the name, you are enslaved. If it is the scent, then subhanallah, you are focused. Which means you want a scent, you go for the scent. Sometimes you might have certain cases where you have a brand name that you may be able to afford that might be of a quality which is far superior, and it is known that the quality is superior. You know, for example, you have air conditioning units that might be Samsung. And I was told that there was a man known as Sam, and he used to sing before, then he died. So now they said Sam sung, which means past tense. Allah protect us. Obviously, that's just a tale. But if Sam was singing well, then why not? We can buy it. Alhamdulillah. If the Samsung units work better than the other units, no problem. The thing is, are we enslaved by Sam? That's the question. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness, and may He make us from those who realize and understand. My brothers and sisters, moments ago I spoke about the reality shows. So you have something known as Big Brother, and you have something known as, these reality shows. They get people together in a room and they discuss things, or they make them live and they show the cameras. The aim is to drop the social standing and purity, morality of the masses who are still clean. That's the aim. And I challenge those who have come up with it, and I'm ready to face what I've said. The reason is they will be engaging in intimacy, or should I say adultery, in full view of the whole world. And those are the people whom the world votes for them to remain in the room, if you know what I'm saying. Because it's all about excitement. Follow your whims and fancies. Do as you please. That's the world we've got to right now. Do as you please. And what happens? Thereafter, the clothing they wear, the cleavage shows, to the degree that today, good women are showing the cleavage. Allahu Akbar. When I say good women, I mean otherwise good character, good behavior. Sometimes they could be reading their salah, put on something over and read their salah. My sister, that cleavage is not to show the public just because some Jessica somewhere across the globe shows it. No, my sister. That is valuable. It's a gift of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you that He can take away at any time. And perhaps He may reduce the value of it if you go around displaying it everywhere. Wallahi. But what happens? We find the clothing begins to change. The tight-fitting clothing reduces the value of a woman, reduces her to a sex object. The non-Muslims are saying this. And where are we? We would like to wear tight-fitting clothing. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us true liberation. Take a look at who designed that tight-fitting clothing. Boss is not a woman. Boss. To be honest with you, it's a man, enslaved completely, but because of the media. We watched a reality show, we saw what this one did and what that one did, and we want to be exactly like that. We voted for them. We sat in front of the screen more than we've ever sat with the Quran. We sat in front of the screen more than we've ever sat in any lecture. The lectures are boring. Why? Because shaitan comes and massages us and we start yawning in a little while. We feel the heat. We want to go away. We say, no, too hot, too many people. And yet when it comes to a movie, that is a lie. It's a tale. We will stay awake up to 3 in the morning watching 2 to 3 movies. And our wives, believe me, sometimes we might convince them to sit and watch with us. That's probably the happiest home today. May Allah protect us. Otherwise, they are neglected. And completely the right of the TV, it's not even the right, it's a wrong actually, of the TV is fulfilled more than the rights of our own wives and our children. Your child is crying for you. You cannot spend 10 minutes with your child, but you are spending 3 hours, one throw, to watch a movie that came from Bollywood, full of singing and full of all sorts of immorality, and it becomes dirtier as time passes. Everybody will agree. Of late, I met a few people whom I knew belonging to the Christian faith, and they told me that we've stopped listening to music. And I was shocked. And wallahi, this is something that needs to be made mention of. Why? Isn't it allowed? No. They said what is going on today is not music, it is Satanism and devil worship. Do you know that? All these pop stars of today, this group of people was telling me that they are in fact calling towards the devil and Satan and worshipping your desires and fancies, whims and whatever you want. So that is why today sin is very easily accessible wherever you are on the globe. The winner is the one who can stay away from it. And they are not calling you towards something that can be made acceptable. They are calling you towards changing your gender. Aren't you fed up of being a female? Well, you know what? They are convincing you that you don't have to be that. We can change it for you. That is what is happening. And I know people who have been through that process and now they want to come back and say, we regret and we want to engage in tawbah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never let us see a day like that. And they are calling people towards immorality and evil to the degree that those hooked onto these type of sites or pornographic material would then lose their self-respect and they would call for something known as group adultery. Astaghfirullah. And this is happening in societies, I'm sure, even within this particular country. And then we say, no, the media, it's not a powerful tool. It controls us totally. It chooses how we think because we choose how we interact with it. And this is why they call people towards same-sex marriages. And they call people towards so many other issues that they would consider absolutely normal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala safeguard us. And this is why we say, even if the non-Muslims today, even the non-Muslims have realized that music industry has actually called us towards Satanism, devil worship, and it's become so dirty and filthy. Even the lyrics are full of swear words, immorality. The decency is lost totally. If they are quitting it, what about us? We are supposed to be further away from it. May Allah grant us the replacement with the Quran. And may He grant us the replacement with the sweet words of praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why we say that it's very important for us to utilize whatever we have to spread the deen. Moments ago, I was speaking to a few friends and we spoke about how today people say, for example, that you see, why is it that you're making use of these social networking platforms to spread the deen? It's not a madrasa. You're not supposed to be doing it. My brother, my sister, I agree with you. It is not a madrasa. But have you ever gone to see the statistics of how many Muslims are on there? Have you ever seen the Muslim countries, how many people are on there? And they refuse to come for Jumu'ah. They don't go to any madrasa. They don't have any dose of any form of spiritual words besides that which comes on the social media. So we are left with no option but to get up and save them through that. Just like if I were to tell you, my brother, for you to touch a woman who is not related to you is haram. But if she is drowning in the ocean, for you to go and save her is farad, compulsory. And at that time you will not just touch her. You will hold her, you will grip her, you will bring her tight to you and swim ashore. And her husband will probably say, Jazakallah khair. Why? It's farad. I see the youngsters smiling, waiting for the day. Oh, this girl is going to drown, I'll be there, inshallah. Look at how we think, mashallah. So, the point being raised is, sometimes there is something that might not be ideal, and it would not be permissible sometimes if the situation was ideal. But when we are drowning, and there are very few people who actually know the extent of the drowning of the masses, then we are sometimes faced with the better of the two evils. And we are forced to engage in something. Like I said, if I were to ask you today, how many of you utilize social networking? I think if we would have to word the question the other way around, how many of you do not utilize social networking, we'll get very few hands up, very few. One community, I asked them, how many of you do not utilize social networking? Nobody put their hands up. Nobody. Which means, well then, how many of you arrive early for Jumu'ah and learn at least 50 minutes or to an hour of your deen every week, and nobody's hands went up? So now, where do you get your deen from? You are going to use your phone, you are going to use the media, you are going to sit in front of the television. Come what may, I'd like to think perhaps more than 90% of the people seated here would probably have access to some of this, or all of it, if not some. And you will be using the internet and the applications and so on. If there is nothing Islamic on it, because that is your source of education, so where do you get your religion from? Now who do you blame when the whole religion goes? You can't just sit back and say, well, the media and everyone must give up their phones and everybody must give up this and that. We tried saying that in the past, that give up this and give up that, only to see that the number of televisions in the homes has multiplied more than 100-fold in the last 10 years. Look at how much money the same Sam we were speaking about has made. Allahu Akbar. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness. May He open our eyes. So if we are going to use everything, then it forces people like us to look further and to say, okay, brother, we will not use it as a social networking tool, for example, or a television as in creating a movie and so on, and entertaining people just like that, but educating people solely for the pleasure of Allah, to increase their iman, because that is the only outlet that they actually have made use of to this particular day or in this particular time. This is why we say the media, it has a powerful impact. So much so that today, if you go back and search Google, he is called Sheikh Google, because people ask him Islamic questions. And so many people have said, you know what? Well, if you're not going to tell me, I'll just Google it. I'll just Google it. Sheikh Google. Wallahi, he's called Mufti Google also. He can issue the fatwa for you. My brothers and sisters, it's a reality. And if you were to search what happened in some of the countries where turbulence occurred and governments were changed, they will tell you it's through Twitter and Facebook. That's what they will tell you. Social networking. If that is the power of the social networking and the media today, and if we have seen in front of our eyes, it has changed the minds of people or made them move, motivated them, given them direction. If we are not going to give Islamic direction through the same media, we have lost the battle with ourselves. And this is why I say it needs a person to look 50 years ahead. And remember, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. When people want to incite violence, they can do it very easily by bombarding us with little thoughts and little messages on a daily basis until we become so irritated that we actually are motivated to become violent. If that is the case, you should know you are heading onto the wrong path. Because with us, every message must cool us down, calm you. Draw your link between you and your Maker. Try and help others. Today we have calculated mischief across the globe to incite Muslims. It may be in this part of the globe as well. Calculated mischief to incite Muslims, because the world is a global village at the moment. What is in the east gets to the west in less than a flash. Never be incited by that. Remember, the non-Muslims who sometimes hate us based on what they have been brainwashed about, not on reality. So they have been bombarded with little messages to say the Muslims, they cast spells on the animals they slaughter. So this is why we should be away from halal and so on. If the same people were slightly educated, they would realize that World Health Organization standards are exactly the halal standards. May Allah grant us goodness. They would realize so much. But because people sometimes are uneducated, or their emotions have been enslaved and colonized. Imagine. Have you ever heard of colonization of emotions? Your emotions are not controlled by you sometimes, controlled by your phone. This is why you read a message, you get angry. You read a message, you smile. You read a message, you laugh. You read a message, you run. You read a message, you sit down. It's all to do with the phone. Your wife cannot do that anymore. Believe me. And this is why if you enter a typical home of today's age, we speak about the media. Everyone is plugged in. On the table, phones are beeping, people are looking. You cannot have a decent discussion with people anymore. Why? Because you have to tweet them, you have to send them a message. And now we have a bigger problem. Allah protect us. Can I say it as it is? Let's word it a little bit more respectfully. A man wants to use the loo, and it's tweeted across the globe. I'm running into the loo. Allahu Akbar. That's still a very respectful example, my brothers and sisters. So we've become so affected by the media and by this social networking that wallahi, every movement of ours is known to the degree that instead of someone then reminding you, brother, enter with your left foot and read the following dua. I don't think anyone's ever said that. We would perhaps laugh at it and we would tell them something dirtier that we are doing. Why? Because that's how we are trained. And this is what is going on the globe, and we don't realize it's in front of us. It controls us. Think about it carefully. You see an advert, ask yourself, how do I look? I look just like the Gillette advert. Allahu Akbar. Just like that. And now there's something called chic. Apparently it's for the big sheiks, you know. So it's called chic. That's also a stick that you shave with. Allahu Akbar. And people are looking at the advert. They monkey see, monkey do. Allahu Akbar. Notice I'm not pointing at myself. I'm pointing back there. My brothers and sisters, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us a beautiful deen. And we need to realize that across the globe, there are so many people who have been making wrong use of the media. They have been using it to sit and watch movies. Movies is one wrong, but multiplying it tenfold, getting into pornography. We lose respect of the opposite sex. We become dirty. Our spouses find out. Our children. I know of cases, my brothers and sisters, where children have discovered the misdeeds of their parents and they cannot believe it to the degree that they have become suicidal. And you don't know. This is why be careful. Watch even where you sin if you are going to. May Allah safeguard us from doing that in the first place. But if you are going to drop, watch where you do it. Perhaps if your child who looked up to you for so many years has now suddenly witnessed what dad has done or mom, perhaps you may be destroyed completely when you hear your child has just committed suicide. May Allah safeguard us. And wallahi, we've tried to help not one, several people in that predicament. They're too shy or too timid to come out to their father. Dad, I actually know what you do. It was actually shown to me in front of my eyes because of X, Y, and Z. Or mom, I've seen what has happened. Dad, I've caught you so many times do this. Wallahi, life is supposed to be pure. You will never ever get happiness and joy out of the impurities of life. Never. Happiness and joy, true contentment comes by leading your life according to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi, try it, test it, see, abstain from what is bad. Turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Educate yourself more. Learn to love one another. Learn not to judge a book by its cover. Perhaps the person might be of greater benefit to you than you may have been to anyone else. It has happened. And perhaps a message might come across to that person from you in a way that they may exceed you and excel in spirituality. We have seen that happening, where people who have taken a moment to embrace others who may not be looking so religious, and after a while they have excelled those who invited them into the deen. Allahu Akbar. It has happened. This is why we say every Muslim is potentially a better Muslim, and every non-Muslim is potentially a Muslim. My brothers and sisters, we've spoken about the internet, we've spoken about the social networking sites and applications and so on. Believe me, if we do not utilize these in the correct way, and I call upon the scholars of Islam, really, to make good use of the media, because he who controls the media controls the world. Believe me, he who controls the media controls the world. The war, as I said at the beginning, is not about weapons of mass destruction. It is actually the washing of the brain to the degree that we begin to believe things that really are just a farce, or sometimes a huge bubble. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. The verses I read at the beginning of this talk, from amongst those verses was a verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has expressed very clearly, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in ja'akum fasiqun binaba'in فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. O you who believe, when a sinner comes to you with news, and here there are two tafsirs of this. One is, when a person comes to you with news of someone else or something else, the mere fact that they have come to you with news about someone else renders them sinful due to the sin of backbiting. So they are sinful. And they say it was brought forward because of expressing the greatness of that particular sin, of going around talking about others. But when someone comes to you with news of another person, verify it and authenticate it before you believe it, because you may harm someone through misinformation and regret later. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. Why we say this? The media is full of stories that make Muslims hate other Muslims. Have you known that? So you have typically, let me give you typical examples. If I were to tell you, take names of a few countries, you'll say those people are sellouts. Automatically. Why? Because a bigger sellout told you that this person was a sellout. And you read the story, your hatred of a nation or your hatred of a specific type of people or a nationality, a lot of the time stems from what the real enemy has actually told you about them. So you didn't verify the story and so on. Of late, I read something written by a man known as Jeremy somebody, where he said that the graves of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Abu Bakr and Umar radiallahu anhuma are going to be removed, and the green dome is going to be destroyed, and everything is going to happen, and you know what, it's very bad. And the Muslims made such a big noise about something that nobody on the ground knew anything about, but a man created the tale. How do you like that? He created the tale and made us from amongst those who actually promoted it, and we started saying things, swearing and cursing people without even realizing that, do you know what? There was nothing like that on the cards ever. Allahu Akbar. Did you know that? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala safeguard us. This is what I mean by saying it shapes public opinion. It changed us. We have an email comes to you. Before you press forward, verify it. If you are not prepared to verify it, do not forward it. Leave it. Because you will not be part of the chain of people who have spread that which is unacceptable. And this is why we say that whatever comes to you in terms of an email, sometimes it is a big hoax. You know, I saw an image where they said the people of Ad. I don't know if you've seen that. That was completely and totally photoshopped. It's been used for the last so many years, referring to so many different nations. If only you knew that there was a website called hoax-slayer.com to slay the hoax, basically, hoax slayer. You would then be able to see that on that particular website, they have made mention of so many of these hoaxes that come to us through emails. And yet we promote them. This is the media. A person sends you today a WhatsApp message. Before you verify it, it's already sent through the globe. And later on we find, oh, it was a lie. You know what's the biggest one? And this is a laugh, mashallah. They tell you, if you don't send the following message via WhatsApp to 20 people who are activated users within the next day, then your account will be closed. And we all send it. But who sent it to you? WhatsApp has control over everything. If they want to send it to you, the message will say WhatsApp. It won't have your friend's number on it. They are not so cheap as to send you such an important message through hearsay, through people. So of late, it's been going on, and you have your inbox filled with so many thousands of messages, each one trying to save his account. And you know, they say there is an error in the system and so on. This is just an example for those who might know what I'm talking about. Whereas, to be honest with you, there was nothing like that on the ground. So I received a message a few days ago saying that there will be an aircraft flying above you in the next 15 minutes. You've got to stand with your right leg up and put your left hand up and wave at it in order for that WhatsApp account to be kept protected. If not, it's going to be deleted. It had some more, pepper and salt in it, but I won't make mention of that. But to be honest, it was a good laugh. The reason is, as soon as a Muslim reads it, sometimes we are the quickest to just forward to everyone. Why? We as Muslims need to be those who authenticate the most, but we actually do it the least. Have you thought of it? And when you get others, sometimes they don't forward those type of messages. Not because it's just our society and our community. They actually don't. Most of them don't. And I'd like to end off by making mention of something very serious. My brothers and sisters, as I said, there is a calculated plan of re-educating with ignorance the Muslim brain, by making it question things that it doesn't know where to find the answers for. It's not used to going to the masjid, going to the ulama. It doesn't have a link with this one and that one. So it will Google. When it Googles, it will be led to the very sites of the people who have created that doubt in the mind to the degree that your deen begins to diminish. And that is happening, and we have seen people who have had so much diminishing that we know it has come from the media. And this is why I say, educate yourselves. We have sometimes more time to socialize with a person we are not supposed to be in touch with than we ever have for our own Rabb, for the one who created us and who made us. And we haven't yet read the Quran. And if we read it, sometimes we haven't understood it thoroughly because we didn't have the time to visit any of the ulama and ask them and tell them, this is what I read, I don't understand it, please explain it to me, and go to someone else and a third person until we have a satisfactory answer. The norms of society are changing very quickly, and what changes the norms of society today is the television and the internet. Did you know that? what is considered abnormal today will become normal tomorrow because of the television and the internet. So if you are going to have those, make sure you use them correctly. That whatever you'd like to change in terms of your norm is never ever in contradiction to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared and dictated. May Allah open our doors. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us goodness. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad. Subhanallah bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.